brother against brother. Should be interesting.
1 minute, you're hijacking a truck full of VCRs and DVD players. The next, you're saving the world. F9 takes the Fast and Furious saga to places it's never gone before, and yes, that spells some pretty insane things for Dom and the rest of the family. Directed by Justin Lin, the 9th movie in the franchise fully embraces that nobody ever stays dead in the Fast movies, and now there's a pretty good theory on why not. We'll break down the ending and mid-credits scene as we explain all that, so you'll have to keep up with us as we live our lives a quarter mile at a time. But before we get into it, I have to warn you, this particular vehicular transport is headed straight for spoiler territory. So if you want to avoid all that, now's the time to do some fancy driving for the quick exit while we do this. Okay, now that we're past the spoiler warning, let's get straight to the big reveals. Starting with the mid-credits scene, we found out what lots of fans expected. Han is ready to have a friendly little chat with Shaw, the guy who totally killed him that one time. Recapping that scene, we see Deckard Shaw beating the absolute piss out of a guy inside of a punching bag, you know, as one does, when there's a knock at the door of the nondescript, warehousey basement guys like Shaw obviously like to hang out in. When he checks to see who's there, it's none other than Han, who looks like he'd like a little explanation on why Shaw thought it was chill to totally blow up his spot. And by spot, I mean car. Of course, we're referring to the moment when Han died in the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. But there's a twist. We didn't find out until the Fast and Furious 6 post-credits scene that Deckard Shaw was the guy behind the job. And F9 puts another twist on that twist. Mr. Nobody used the accident to fake Han's death, all to protect Project Ares, the deadly MacGuffin of this movie. We'll explain it in a quick second, so stick around for that. Now, Project Ares also needed a key, which turns out to be Elle, the girl Han has been watching over since his presumed death. After Han faked his own death, he made his home in Tokyo, a place he told his friends was like his Mexico.
Well, you know those old westerns? The cowboys make a run for the border? This is my Mexico.
Real quick, so Project Ares is a device that, when unlocked, would allow the user to take control of all of Earth's weapons and defense systems. Jakob Torretto, Dom's long-lost brother who he kicked out of the family, spends the film fighting for control of Project Ares, funded by a bratty billionaire. In the end, Dom and the gang stop Project Ares from activating thanks to help from Jakob, and just like that, he's family. Even though he's actually family that young Dom literally kicked out of his family earlier in the movie. But that's not important. What is important is by the end of the film, Cipher, who had spent most of the film held captive by Jacob's mercenaries, escapes and is in the wind by the end of the film. So, if you're wondering who will challenge the family in this franchise's 10th film, Cipher is still a good bet.
Come on, man, let's get with it.
But Han wasn't the only long-lost member of the crew to make an appearance in F9. Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor, who hasn't been seen in-universe since Furious 7, makes an appearance in F9's final scene. Walker died in a real-world car crash in 2013, and the Fast franchise has repeatedly reminded us that not only is the character Brian still alive, he's still family. F9 definitely does this too. In the final scene, Dom's family, well, most of his family, is hanging out at the house for a barbecue. But before they say grace, they acknowledge the empty seat at the table before Mia tells Dom that the guy that seat is saved for is on his way. The last shot of the film, not including the Han and Shaw mid-credits scene, is a familiar-looking, tricked-out Nissan Skyline pulling up to the house. Of course, Fast Saga fans knew exactly what that meant. That's Brian's car. He rolled up to the barbecue because, like we said, he's still family. Brian also plays a pretty important off-screen role in F9. And when we first join Dom and Letty at the beginning of the movie, they are raising Dom's son, also named Brian, in relative peace and quiet. When Roman, Tej, and Ramsey show up out of nowhere to let them know they're about to get Fast and Furious all over again, Dom is reluctant to leave his little Brian, but Letty is gung-ho. But when Dom realizes his long-lost brother is behind everything, he's not too far behind Letty. But who's watching little Brian? Brian is. He was the perfect choice, actually. In the Fast universe, Brian O'Connor left the world-renowned heist-pulling life behind at the end of Furious 7, choosing to set aside the crazy life of the family to instead focus on raising his family. Although, when Dom finds out Brian is watching Brian, he seems surprised, which begs the question, who the hell did he leave little Brian with in the first place? Who's got your kid, Dom? The film's producers didn't answer that question, but they did need to write a fitting end to the character Brian O'Connor after Paul Walker's real-world death. But having some quality childcare available is crucial to any family, so despite not appearing on camera for insane missions anymore, Brian O'Connor is still alive and well and still playing an important role, especially as we have at least 2 more Fast movies on the way.
The most important thing in life will always be the people in this room.
And not like anyone forgot, they go to space in this one. Tej and Roman make it to orbit in a Pontiac Fiero with a rocket strapped to it, built by Sean Boswell, Twinkie, and Earl Hugh from Tokyo Drift.
Impressive, I know.
No.
If that sounds crazy, it's because it is. And Roman is very clear about how insane this sounds, but they do it anyway. Partly because earlier in the movie, Roman realizes that he, Tej, and the rest of the team can never die because they are invincible.
Y'all ever thought about the wild missions we've been on? We've taken out planes, trains, tanks. I'm not going to even think about the submarine.
Him especially. Roman escapes certain death time after time in F9, all while he fully understands that he should have died in each increasingly deadly circumstance. And here's our reason nobody ever stays dead in the Fast Saga. They're all invincible immortals. And Roman is the only one who truly understands this. This is how the franchise fully embraces what it has become. The family keeps raising the stakes in each movie, but our heroes, all our heroes, still come out of it without a scratch. That said, there is one potential death in F9 that could have some far-reaching consequences in future films. Mr. Nobody is now missing and presumed dead. His plane was attacked and crashed in South America. This is the mission that pulled Dom and Letty out of retirement in the first place, and I guess left little Brian to fend for himself. They went there to retrieve the Project Ares hardware, which they do, but when they show up, Mr. Nobody is nowhere to be found, and everybody just kind of shrugs and assumes he's a goner. But we think it's a sure bet that Mr. Nobody is still in play, regrouping for an eventual showdown with Cipher. Because when it comes to faking deaths and huge explosions, Mr. Nobody's got some experience. We found out Mr. Nobody orchestrated Han's death in the first place to protect Project Ares, and if Han can survive this, it's pretty safe to assume Mr. Nobody survived a plane crash that we didn't even see on screen.
Me, I'm just a guy. I'm Mr. Nobody.
Get your break for me, would you, darling?
And here are the Easter eggs we found in this one. Lots of callbacks to all the other Fast and Furious movies. The story of how Dom and Jacob's dad died is the story Dom tells Brian in The Fast and the Furious.
Clipped his bumper, put him into the wall at 120.
After the first mission fails, Dom has a scene with Stasiak, the FBI agent Brian O'Connor worked with in Fast and Furious, the 4th film in the franchise. It looks like he still has a tough time keeping his nose unbroken.
Sorry about this, man.
The framed up house the family ends up barbecuing at in the end of the film, that house first appears in the Fast and the Furious 1 and then appears again at the end of Fast and Furious 6. It gets blown up in Furious 7, which is why we see the new frame in F9. Roman is still hungry all the time, like he was in Too Fast, Too Furious, where he eats all the time. His reason was he knew how bad the food was in jail.
I was in jail, bruh. I know how shitty the grub is on the inside.
And to wrap this up, it's time to say grace. Dom tells little Brian that he'll say grace at the table for the first time. Saying grace before dinner is a nice little tradition the family does when they're in between causing major international incidents with their cars and stuff.
Because you were the first out of everybody here to reach in to get the chicken, you say grace.
But what did you think of F9? Did we finally see justice for Han? And are all the family members actually invincible immortals like Roman thinks they are? Let us know what you think in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching this episode of Canon Fodder, and for more F9, check out the entire Fast Saga timeline, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.
Ready, y'all?